Welcome to the Color Randomizer application. In this application, you will learn how to use or create a couple of buttons, also how to use the map functionality in React, and how to hook up buttons with callback functions that, when triggered, will randomize different colors. Also randomize the background color and randomize the title. And let's just try out the application. Let's say I'm going to click the very first button. Now, if I click it, take a look at the background, take a look at the title, take a look at the button. So first click, second click, third click, and so on and so on. You can see all the buttons are randomly changing their color. The background is changing the color. Now, if I start clicking the next button, this button is now start to randomly change its color, and also the background again, the next button, and the next button. So pretty simple application, but I think you are going to learn a lot. So let's get started with the project. So let's get started with the project. Now, first things first, we need to deactivate our previous project by commenting out this and commenting out the import. So let's go back to our application. If we hit save, we'll see nothing. Next step is to actually create a project folder. So once again, let's go into our projects, create another folder, 0202-randomize colors, hit enter, and then create the application itself. So randomize and colors. Remember, camel case everything and JSX. Okay, RFC. Give a start with the shortcut, and also first things first, we need to save and import it within here. So let's go one step down, open, randomize colors. There it is. Close it up, hit save, and it should work. So need to zoom in a bit. Let's see. I'm at 200%. Holy moly. Okay, let's go back to our randomized colors. Now again, I'm going to return a container, so a class name of container. And let's move down here. Let's delete this randomized colors and move it into a title component. So component title, capital T, title. So for some reason, this time it was not recognized, but no problem. We can import our components. So import title from, we need to go one level up, components, and from here we're going to choose the title component. Title, we need to have you as a text, so text, and paste this in as a string, randomized color. So let's make a space between them. Next, let's move underneath of it, and also let's insert here another class, so class name or classes, and let's add here a MB and margin to the bottom of 4. And now, because I changed the class on it, you know what? Let's move back to our component. I want to change something here. So if the I still want this title to be in here. So I could do something like pass it in, the title, and also pass it in here, class and the string of title. Okay, I want this title to remain there nevertheless. Also, if you pass in a subtitle, then this should change. Okay, let's move back to our component. So let's say we added the margin to the bottom of 4, but I think now the text center is gone. So let's also add back. Why am I even... text center should still remain, so I'm going to take it out from here, pass it back in here, and just leave it at title. Okay, so we got a title set up. Next up, let's create a button. So just a regular button tag, and this button tag should have the handle of click me, not free, click me. Okay, now buttons have a couple of classes. If you take a look now in my CSS, and you can first of all choose a btn. This will give you a regular button, and then let's go with a btn dash danger, and this will give you a red button. Okay, let's copy this button a couple of times. Let's copy it 4 times because I want to show you a couple of things. So the second one, let's change it to success. Then let's change the next one to primary, and let's also do a warning button. Warning, there we go. So we got all our buttons set up. Let's see, are there, well, they're not centered because let's also do here margin auto and text center. Okay, so everything is now centered. So how do we handle our events? You know, regularly, if you take your HTML button, you would add an event list. You would take this button from the DOM, add an event listener to it. And in our case, we just need to type in a click. So on click, and let's do something. Let's handle click. So the first one will handle the click. Now it's looking for this function. We're going to create this function. So function and handle click. I'm going to pass it in as just a regular console log. So console log and usual console log click. Okay, let's hit save. Let's check out the console, inspect, go to the console, and let's move up here. And why are you looking for values? We don't need you. Okay, let's do here refresh. So if I'm going to click one of the buttons, nothing happens. But if I'm going to click the very first button, then I should get this console log click. So each time I'm clicking on the button, this function will be executed. Now, why did I pass in the button as such? So handle click, and why didn't the function, and why didn't I pass it in as an execution like this? Basically adding, let me just comment this out, basically adding the parentheses as well, because let's hit the refresh and just take a look down in the console. You see it just automatically executed and cannot execute it any longer. So in order to pass in a function, you need to pass it in as such, as its name. Now let's say I want to grab onto the event from this button. Then I could do something like this. I'm going to create here a callback function, anonymous one, and this is going to trigger the button. Now if I want to pass in the event, so if I now try to click it, not working anymore, now I need to call the function here. As you can see, if I refresh the page, it's no longer executing, only when I'm clicking it. So why is this helpful? Well, because I can now pass in the event. So if I'm passing down the event, I need to catch it here. For example here, e or event. It's easier for you to understand this way. So event, and if I'm clicking now the button, this still works. And also if I want to, let's copy this console log, comment it out, and console log the event dot target, or let's just console log the event. It should give me a execution of click event. So if I console log it now, it's undefined because I also need to catch it here, event. And now if I'm clicking it, you can see it's synthetic base event on click and so far and so on. So it's basically telling me that this was a click event. Okay, so I'm passing down the event, the execution here, passing it down to the function and grabbing it in here. And we can now do something like target and click on it again. It's going to give me the very first button. So you get the idea. Now, actually, we're doing something else in React. We are using arrow functions up here. So you can do something like this, const. We're going to do exactly the same thing as we did up there. So handle click, and we're going to assign it, not click. And now we can assign it to a anonymous function up here, pass in the event in here, and then do something. So you can just remove, actually, you know what? I'm going to change, I'm going to go to the next button. So just to show that it's the same thing. On click, you will handle sec click, and I'm going to rename my function up here in sec click, and I'm going to console log now this event target, and whoop, this way. So the first one, if I'm clicking it, actually, let me just clear the console. So the first one, if I'm clicking it to get the first button, the second button should be now this button. Okay, you can see it's doing exactly the same thing, but this is a much shorter way. So grab on, create the function up here as an arrow function, as using a const, use an anonymous function up here, grab onto the event. So whenever this function is called on whatever element, because if I'm doing it this way, I have to pass in this to each and every one of them. So this is the much shorter way. So let me pass on this function, the second one. Let me pass it in both of them. I just hold down Option, click through two things that I want to add a function to, and it added the function to both of the places. I'm going to leave in this one. This is just an example for you for later on to work with it. Now let's actually work in this and also in that function. I'm going to create another function. I'm going to create a function that is going to change the body color. Not the body color, but it's going to generate a random color. So let's create here a function, get random color. And you obviously saw this function multiple times in JavaScript. Let's create a variable called letters. I'm going to pass in here in a string 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, F. Oh, C, D, E, F, because all of the hexadecimal colors start with a number, or can start with anything, but they're basically from 0 to 9 and A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, and then let's create another variable called color or hex, or whatever you want to name it. I'm going to pass in here the string of hexadecimal, and now we're going to compile them or combine them using a for loop. So for let where I is this it's so rare that I use a regular for loop. So where I is less than 6, because I don't want to have a number that is more than 6. It can be less than 6, but not greater than 6, as you know in hexadecimal numbers. Then we're going to iterate I, and let's return a color, and let's add to this color plus equal the letters. So the first variable, letters, we're going to add to this hexadecimal a random iteration of this string. Now we're going to use math floor for this, math, the math method, and floor, and we're going to loop over our math method again, and use the random method on it, and we're going to multiply this 16. Okay, and this entire function should just return the color variable. That's it. So if I'm going to execute this function, then I should get a hexadecimal color. So let me pass this function in here on this handle click call. Let's take a look down here in the console. So if I press the very first one, nothing will happen. But if I, and also let me comment out this, just going to comment console log the event there, which is the button. But if I press the second one, then it should generate a random number, but I should have also passed it into a console. So console.log the execution of that function. So let's click again, and there we go. We have a string of a hexadecimal number of 6 digits. Perfect. Now what can we do with this random color? Well, we need to pass it in as a background color and as a color to the buttons. So what I'm going to do here is first of all grab onto the bodies. Okay, grab onto the body tag using regular JavaScript. So document, query selector, and we're going to grab onto the body tag. Okay, and now let's add to the body tag the style and background of the function of getRandomColor, and that's it. So if I will click now, I'm also going to close up the console. If I'm going to click now the second button, then the background color should get a random color, and boom, there we go. You see, simple as that. Okay, now let's grab onto the buttons. Now you see we have here a event, and we know that we can grab onto the target that we're clicking on. So let's use that, and we're going to grab onto the e.target. So whatever button we're going to click on, we're going to grab onto the style of it. So dot style, and we're going to change this background color. We're going to assign it to the getRandomColor function. So basically, we're going to click on the very first button. It's going to not only generate a random color from the background, but also change the background color of the button that was clicked. Okay, and simple as that. Now, I just wanted to illustrate within this project how event handling works in React. So hope you enjoyed this project. Hope you understood how this works. And this is why I didn't create any kind of button component. We're going to create the button component just in a couple of minutes or in the next project. And also how we can use functions. So hope you learned a lot, and see you in the next project. Bye-bye.